Here is the Mark IV Rotary Fly Tying Vise by Maine-Made Best. Maine-Made Best is a one-man machine shop located in Maine. I make approximately 100 vises every year. Each is made 100% from start to finish by me on World War II era precision machine tools. I sell direct to the tyer, so there's no advertising costs or promotional costs or markups through retailers. So every single dollar that's spent on the vise actually went into the vise. This is current as of June 2021. At present, the vise is in its pre-production phase. I've made several prototypes and I am sending them off to some expert tyers who test vises for me. They'll ensure that everything is tip-top, and once they confirm that, I will begin to produce the vise in quantity. If you have any questions or you'd like to contact me regarding the vise or availability, you can do so at my website, which is listed at the end of this video. I'd be happy to answer any questions, whether by phone or by email. In the coming weeks, not only will I start making the vise and start posting videos showing the progress being made, as well as how the vise is made, different machine tools used, different operations conducted, but I'll also be listing the vise on my website so that prices will be available as well as dates for availability. To start, I would just like to show you the accessories available and just give you a broad overview, and then we'll get into more specifics as the video goes on. To start, you can see the accessories include a parachute gallows tool, a tube vise attachment with 4 collets that will accommodate all commonly available needles and tubes, both plastic and metal tubes. There's also a centering tool which allows you to put the vise jaws on center with the spindle axis quickly and very accurately. There's also a tool tray with 4 metal removable tool cups, and there are 4 stainless steel tool posts onto which you can place thread, hair stacker, things like that. There are a multitude of holes, both in location and in shape and style, to accommodate a variety of different tools. There are also slots on the side that allow very oddly shaped objects, maybe that are more bulbous here and narrow here, to be placed in, as well as machined slots for scissors and bobbin holders. This is attached to sort of a gantry on the vise, and this is articulated, and it can be swung into whatever is the most convenient location for you. There's also a felt pad on the bottom so that it won't mar the tabletop you're working on. On the other side of the vise, there is a sight board and a bobbin holder. These are attached offset by a shaft, and they also have 2 points of articulation. There's a joint here and there's a joint here as well, so it can be swung in and then swung out, and it can be placed any place relative to the jaws. The actual bit that holds the thread can also be moved up and down and rotated 360 degrees. The sight board, same thing. There are two joints, so you can place it anywhere you want relative to the jaws. Both the bobbin holder and the sight board can be located anywhere along the shaft. They will move in and out. And the sight board is gloss on the back and matte on the front. And by removing this thumb screw, this brass thumb screw, you can just reverse the board. So all of the accessories such as the parachute tool and the tube vise connect directly to the axis of the spindle via a tapped hole right here. So they all rotate with the spindle. They're not fixed in any location. I'll move those out of the way. This right here we'll have to disregard for the moment because it is a planned future attachment, which is a dubbing brush attachment, which attaches directly to the pedestal at that point, and that will be available in the future. The vise itself has hardened and tempered tool steel jaws, which will give you many years of service without being damaged by hooks. The jaws open and close via a cam lock. The vise rotates on 2 sealed stainless steel bearings, very precise bearings. There's a spindle lock here, which allows you to clamp down on the spindle and to arrest the rotation of the vise. The drag system, which is actuated by turning these 2 knurled nuts, works by a disc drag system, and the disc drag is Teflon, so it's extremely smooth even when quite a bit of friction is being applied. So it's very even and smooth throughout its rotation. Likewise, all of the points of articulation here on the sight board, as well as here on the jaws and here on the stem, work against Teflon thrust washers. So again, they are very smooth, very even. The stem itself is articulated at this point so that it can sweep back and forth along a 180-degree radius. The jaws themselves are connected to the vise in the spindle via an offset arm. There are 2 points of articulation here, so the arm can move this way and the jaws can move that way, so that with the aid of the centering tool you can put any size hook from 8/0 all the way to 22 or very, very small midge hooks. You can put any size hook directly onto the central line of the axis of rotation. There are 2 material clips. One is right here and the other is right here. There's also a additional dog leg here, which can be removed. Just simply threads on, so you can choose to use it or not to use it as you wish. There are 2 tools, 2 Allen keys that are necessary for making various adjustments and locking things in place. Those can be attached directly to the pedestal by a rare earth magnet, which can be placed anywhere you wish. And then when you are done with the tool, you can just simply attach it to the magnet, and it won't get lost or misplaced or hidden under a pile of feathers or what have you. The pedestal is very heavy. It's approximately 7 pounds, and it's very nicely powder coated with a very durable, nice finish. And I think we'll leave it at that for the moment, and then we'll go to sort of a more in-depth look at the basic features of the vise, and then I'll do a hook holding demonstration with a variety of different hooks, ranging from an extremely large 8/0 hook down to a smaller size 16 hook. So I will show you, I'll just simply remove most of these parts, and we'll just get to the basic vise. And the vise itself will be sold separate from all the additional accessories. So you can choose to purchase or not to purchase any accessory at any time, and they're all interchangeable, so they will always fit with the vise. But you can just choose what you'd like to buy at the time. So I will remove this. Let's just get that out of the way. And I will also remove the sight board and bobbin assembly. And then I'll also remove the gantry that holds it on. So at present, we just have our basic vise, which looks something like this. And there are basically three components, starting with the first part of the stem. I'll show you that. And I haven't mentioned it, but just to be clear, although you may have told from seeing it, all of the parts of the vise are stainless steel, and the control knobs, the knurled knobs, are all brass. And I did mention it, but the jaws are hardened tool steel. So the first part of the vise is the lower part of the stem with the articulated knuckle, which is buffered by two Teflon thrust washers, so that this, let's see, so that this will spin very smoothly, and then with a simple tighten, it will lock and be very, very secure. And that's just simply a split housing with a cross screw to secure it. So that's that part. Then you have the top part of the vise, and of course, let's see, let me just loosen this. These two simply go together like that, and then these are joined together by tightening a non-marring brass set screw. The upper part of the vise houses the bearings. Then you have your two Teflon thrust washers, which provide a disc drag, which is actuated by these two knurled nuts by tightening them in and out. Then you have your control knob and dog leg at the rear. Then you have your spindle up front. And then you have a tapped hole there where all of the accessories can be inserted, which allows them to move with the central line of the spindle. Also, you have a spindle lock here, and you can the vise is fully transferable for right or left-handed tires, and so there are two tapped holes here at 60 degrees. I found that to be the most comfortable way of using the vise, and then just simply placing your fingers here to tighten or lock or unlock the spindle. But you can choose which hole to put it in, depending if you're right or left-handed, or just simply on your preference. And there is a brass set screw that you have to put in one of the holes just to block that hole so that dirt and stuff doesn't get inside the bearing housing itself. And then this stud right here, which holds the offset arm of the jaws, just has to be adjusted, and then you have to rotate 180 degrees the dog leg of the rear control knob to go from right to left-handed. So it's very simple to switch between the two. The two-part system also makes it very convenient for travel, because you can literally, if you were so inclined, stick this in a jacket pocket or something along those lines, This, for example, the total length of that is about 4¼ inches. Oh, I'm sorry, off camera. That's about 4¼ 4½ inches in this direction in length. And then the remaining bit are just the jaws, and those are, I have to excuse my hand there. That's approximately the same size. So it's very convenient to be packed away for travel. So in operation, we would have our wrench there on our magnet, and if we wanted to, we would just be able to adjust. So you can move the vise, and it will stay relative to where you left it, but it's very smooth in operation, and you can place it anywhere that you like. And the reason why I've placed the articulation here is that on a lot of vices, I've noticed the articulation is somewhere in here, but that makes it very difficult to use a dog leg, because obviously when you swung this down, it's going to hit that stem, and also it wildly moves the jaws relative to the other accessories you may have, like the bobbin holder and the sight board, whereas this way the movement and placement of the jaws is not as extreme. So that's a very simple adjustment, very quick and very positive, and very, very secure. You won't get any slippage from that at all. I'll just place it somewhat vertical for demonstration. The material clips are here and here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see the material clips. One is a large round spring, and you can. The advantage of having it here versus I noticed a lot of vices have like a spring that's sort of wrapped around the spindle nose. One of the advantages of this vise is that you can move the jaws in and out so that you have a very large working area for your hand, and you also don't have that traditional kind of bent arm that connects the spindle to the jaws, which obstructs any kind of wing or body or anything like that. And so the advantage of having a material clip here is that you can just take your material, run it right over. All you have to do is sort of peel back. I'm gonna, if you'll excuse me for 1 sec, I'm just gonna sort of, yeah, there we go. I'm gonna, there we go. That's good. That's good. So you can see that this spring is actually not wrapped around anything. There's no tension on it. So you can just simply peel it back like that to open up the distance between the coils, lay your material in there, and let it close back onto the material. So it'll hold really any size material, from very thin material to very thick material. And it'll just run right there and just dangle down, versus being wrapped around here. Not only do you lose some of your hand room here, but I've noticed that way once you start to rotate with a piece of material that's clipped into here, sometimes it starts to wrap around and kind of becomes annoying. The other material clip is right here on your adjustment screw for the width of the jaws opening, and those are 3 rubber rings that are pressed against one another, and it's sort of like the same principle as flossing your teeth. You just force the material down between the 2 rings, and it'll hold it in tension, and then you can just pop it out. It's also nice if you want to take your bobbin, you can just draw it back over there, and the bobbin will dangle down, and it will leave a lot of the working area free, and your bobbin won't be in your way. I find that's convenient for things like trimming deer hair and things like that, where I just want the bobbin out of the way. So those are the material clips there, and Now we'll just go over the means of adjustment for the jaws very quickly. The jaws are adjusted very simply. This spindle here is adjusted by use of a, sorry about the hand, by a non-marring brass set screw. And the same thing for this point of adjustment here. So this offset arm, again running on Teflon thrust washers, so it's very smooth, can be adjusted that way. And the jaws themselves, again, working on Teflon thrust washers, can adjust that way. So you could literally pull the jaws, and I'm going to have to zoom out. Oops, zoomed in. So you can really regulate the jaw location any way that you want, depending on how much hand room you want to work with, or how big your hook is, or how big the wing or the body is that you're tying. And you can, the next point is this, which is a standard feature that comes with the Vise, is a centering needle. And it's a two-part design rather than an integral needle. It's a removable needle. The reason being that at some point in time this is going to get bent and it's no longer going to be accurate. And rather than just tossing the whole assembly, you can just pull out the needle and replace it with a new needle, and you haven't wasted anything. So to place the jaws on center for any size hook, you just simply take your centering needle, you thread it into a tapped hole here in the spindle nose, and now you have the location of the center line of the axis of rotation. And you can just simply bring the jaws up until you reach your desired point. And the another point is that the offset arm fits into a stud here, and it can swing this way, and that will also need to be brought on center just by loosening that brass non-marring set screw, bringing the Vise tips to the center of the needle, and then just simply tightening that. And that's just an adjustment you're really only going to do once. So you can adjust the jaws at 2 points like that, really to your whatever location that you want, depending on your requirements, both for the hook size, the fly size, and for your working requirements. For example, for how much hand room that you feel like you need. So I'll just arbitrarily put that down, and then you just simply tighten. And whenever you tighten a set screw, just kind of jiggle the wrench. Oops, sorry. Jiggle the wrench until you're sure that it's totally seated all the way in, and then you can tighten. And there's a set screw on the top, and there's also an additional set screw on the bottom. And that's just sort of belt and suspenders. For example, if for whatever reason you were ever to lose that one, you have a backup underneath. And also it's just a secondary means of really locking things down. On the point of articulation for the jaws to the offset arm, you actually have 3 non-marring set screws that you can choose from, and that's largely whatever location you want to work from. But also, if you were to lose 1 or even 2, you would still have the 3rd, so you'd never be unable to use the Vise. So I'll just tighten that down. This certainly isn't on center, but that does not matter for our purposes right now. So essentially, you can move the jaws in any location. You've got material clips here and here. You've got a lot of working room for your hands. You've got your drag here. And I'll just sort of briefly show the drag. Right now you can see the entire spindle. Whoops, this is on an uneven surface. There you go. Okay. So now you can see that the spindle is just riding on the sealed ball bearings, and so it's very free in motion. And all you have to do to actuate the drag is just to start gradually tightening these two brass knobs, and you can see, well, that's a little bit of resistance, and we'll tighten it a little more. Yeah, a little bit more resistance, but still, because it's running on a disc drag Teflon washer, it's very smooth in operation, and you're not straining to rotate it. And now just a little more, and now a little more, and then you can get it so that once you rotate it, it'll just stay put. So I'll just back that off and return to free running. And then if you just want to leave it free running, or just with a little bit of drag on there, say, like that, you can just lock your spindle and it'll stay put for whatever, tying operation you need to conduct. So next, I will show you sort of a brief hook holding demonstration and the best way of using the jaws. So I will start by using this really, really large 8/0 hook. So you can see that's a really big hook. For example, this is a number 6 hook. This is much bigger and scarier looking. So this is probably one of the largest hooks you're likely to encounter if you're a saltwater tyer. And the principle of getting the hook in the jaws and then securing it such that it holds very well without slippage is a very, very simple one. So you'll notice these jaws have a half taper on them, and they're different than the double taper jaws that you might be familiar with. So these are sort of more traditional double taper jaws. These are the type of jaw that I much prefer, and I'll show you why in a couple minutes. You'll notice a lot of vise makers have grooves that they've machined into the wall of the vise jaws, and I don't do that, and I don't think it is a good idea. The basic reason being is that you're sort of creating a one-size-fits-all solution for a huge variety of different hook sizes. So you could potentially be tying a hook this big, or on a hook, I don't know if you can see that, on a hook that big. And the grooves are obviously just one fixed radius, and the hooks are all different, and they're changing every time you tie, perhaps. So I find you spend a great deal of time just trying to fiddle with it and trying to get the thing to sort of fit in there, not really kind of sort of. What the principle that these jaws are based on and the hook holding is increasing the surface area of the hook in the jaws rather than trying to fit it into a one-size-fits-all groove. And so the other feature is that I wanted to minimize the area of the hook that was obscured by the jaws themselves. So with this type of jaw, regardless of the size of hook, The basic principle is you use this adjustment screw to obviously open or close the jaw tips relative to the thickness of the jaw. Open it so it's just a little bigger than the hook itself, and locate the bottom part, this part of the hook, so that the point of the hook is flush with the tip of the jaws, and this entire section is captured in this taper here. So this taper sort of mirrors that shape on the hook, and just simply line the tip of the barb with the tip of the jaws and adjust this opening until, oh, you'll notice that's too loose, so we'll tighten it down. That's a little too loose. And when you're tightening this screw, think about the face of a clock. You don't want to go from, say, 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You don't want to make a drastic adjustment. You want to think about maybe minutes rather than hours. So rather than, if it's too loose to start, and I would always start too loose and then sort of dial it in, think about going from 12 o'clock to 15 minutes past 12, rather than from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, which is to say, making a wild, really turning it versus just ooching it forwards. Because when you cam this over to secure the hook, you really want to always, just do it with one finger. You don't want to be white knuckling it, using two hands or really cranking on the thing, because all that added pressure is not doing anything beneficial. But you really want it to be just more resistance than easy, but certainly not where you're straining or really pushing to get that thing closed over. It just wants to be moderate, a moderate resistance. So I'm just going to lay this in there so the barb is flush. I want to get this so that it basically, this portion is all captured. Close that over. So now we see the barb is flush. This whole part is captured, but again, the barb in the lower part of the hook is an area you're going to have to work around when you're tying anyway. Obviously, you got to manipulate the thread and the material so it's not hitting the barb and fraying your thread. So this actually also leaves the largest majority of your hook unobstructed, whereas if you were using a traditional double taper type, you'd probably be placing it something like there, and you would have much less working area. So I believe this system holds the hooks the best and provides the greatest area of working room on the hook. And now you can see with just the pretty fast and quick adjustments that we made. Now, obviously the shank is mega strong, so I'm not going to bend it, but I am really bearing down on that. And that's not going to come out, and it's not going to slip. Now, that's likely the largest hook most tyers are going to use. And I'll go next to, I don't remember exactly what size this hook is, but it's smaller, but it's still a predator style hook, something you may use for pike or something like that. And some hooks may flare a little bit here, and so if that's the case, if it flares, you can just put that section just a little bit lower, just a little underneath, like that. But the principle is you basically want to get the barb tip flush with the tip and get that bit so that it's totally covered by this tapered area. And we'll just move this in. A little, just minute turn. Oh, minute turn again. Oh, that's good. So again, this hook is very secure. I'm probably not going to bend this hook shank, but I can't bear down on it anymore really, and it's very secure. And you can see, even if you want, if for example, you know, some hooks do flare at the tip there in that they're wider than the rest of the hook, you can just bring it down a little bit more. But as long as it's positioned such that the tip of the barb is at the tip of the jaws, and you're capturing most of that bend, the jaws will hold very, very securely, and you can adjust it very quickly. And you're still left with a much larger area of working space on the hook than traditional jaw tapers. And again, I'm just doing that just one fingered. I'm not really, you know, straining to close the jaws. So now we'll go, this is like a number 6 streamer hook, and we're just going to apply the same principle. Just bring it, okay. So again, same principle, and you can see, whoops, okay, so that's broken. Now I'll go have a number 10 hook here. We'll do the exact same principle. A little loose, tighten it a little bit. A little loose again. Again, I'm only adjusting it by just minute degrees, like literally like 5-10 degrees of turn. There we go. So again, we're just covering this bit of the hook that we would have had to work around anyway when tying. We're not obscuring any of the upper portion. And I can just bend that. Oops. So, hold on, let me bring it back. Okay, so that hook was very securely held. Now we'll go to like a size 16, size 18. Again. No, too tight. Too tight again. Too tight again. Okay. Actually, we can bring that forward a little bit. So again, we can just bend and break that before it'll slip. There we go. Okay. So those are really the salient points of the vise, as well as the means of adjustment with the centering needle. And then, for example, if you wanted to install, say, the tube vise attachment, you would just have to back these off. I don't know if that's tight or not. Take this off. We'll pull this entire assembly. You can see here are the Teflon thrust washers that fit into these counterbore holes. Just take that off. I like to put everything together so that you don't lose anything. So that's the jaw assembly right there, which can just be removed in a couple of minutes. And we will insert our tube vise attachment, and to ensure that this doesn't spin. Now you'll notice there's a hole right here, and I have not wanted to put knurling on here or I didn't want to put diamond knurling on this nose cone. This just has straight knurling. And the reason being is that diamond knurling just really is like Velcro for, you know, for material, especially like floss and things like that. And if you're tying and just floss or anything just touches diamond knurling, it gets all fuzzy and nasty. So this is just a hole you can stick your Allen key in here to tighten that up, and then just tighten down these 2 screws which contact a shaft in here, and that just stops this from rotating and loosening up. And now you have your tube, and you have different collets you can put in there, and you can also, if you want a chuck instead of a collet, so the collets just fit in and out, you can just take your centering needle, which has a I'm just taking apart the centering needle, and just has a sort of a threaded on 3-jaw chuck. And this tube vise also has the same thread as the chuck for the centering needle, and you can just put it on like that, and then you can put anything in there whatsoever. So that's that attachment. So we will take that off. And then for your parachute attachment, which is your gallows here, you have this little adapter right here, which you want to spin in. And once this hole is vertical, you just tighten that brass ring, insert your gallows, tighten that down, and then there's a spring here. Whoops, got to adjust the camera. I'm going to zoom out, not in. So now you have your gallows, you know, and your jaws would be out there, and you just want to take your hackle pliers, put them in this loop, and take that loop and just stick the end into this hole, so that now these have formed a spring loop, and your hackle pliers can be tensioned that way, like that. And the reason for the loop is just that everybody has different hackle pliers. Some are, you know, heavy wire, some are like flat sheet metal, and this loop allows you to easily accommodate any size of hackle plier. That is essentially all of the notable features of the vise. And then there's also something I haven't shown you yet, oops, daisy, which is sort of this, this light, LED light, which can be affixed directly to the pedestal itself. So it's not, you know, it's not sort of a bunch of doodadery hanging off the stem of the vise, which gets annoying and gets in the way. It's very bright. It replicates daylight, and it's something that comes from a supply house that supplies machine shops, and this is just sort of a very tough, heavy-duty LED light that you'd put in a machine shop, like on a milling machine or a lathe, to provide auxiliary light. It's really nice light. It's really super heavy duty. I don't make it, obviously. I buy it and can attach it to the vise pedestal. So those are essentially the salient features of the Maine-Made Best Mark IV vise for 2021. If you have any questions, please refer to the website address at the end of this, and over the coming weeks I will be posting more information regarding pricing and availability on the website. So thank you very much, and please be in touch if you have any questions.